What's good, everyone? It's your boy Nati with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMVSportsZone. I apologize, guys, for the delay. It's just there's been delays on like my end in terms of guests, and also hopefully we'll get Abdullah on as well in a couple minutes. But yeah, I'm here for you guys. I'm here for the stream, and I definitely want to dive into everything that's happened this week. I mean, Abdullah, we'll talk to him a little later on the stream, but Abdullah discussed his thoughts on the schedule for the Washington Commanders and his record prediction as well. And honestly, I know he said we would go 10-7. Honestly, I could see us going 10-7, but personally, I think 9-8 might be the better prediction. I'll go week by week as we go along in the stream, but I think this team is talented enough to even win potentially 11, 12 games. But realistically, given, in my opinion, the toughest stretch on the schedule from weeks 3 to weeks 10, I think we'll suffer some losses. I think, the Bears might be an easy game, especially because having watched Bears games in the past, being a resident of Chicago, I kind of get a sense for their lack of talent on their roster. And you guys have probably heard this before, but it's crazy to think that they did not at all build around Justin Fields throughout this offseason. So I think that would probably be an easy game on the schedule. Abdullah, bro, how are you?
Hey guys, sorry I'm late. I've been trying to figure out this camera situation. What's up, man?
No problem. I mean, everybody in the chat, shout out to Abdullah because on very quick notice, he decided to join the stream and definitely helped me out with this one. So I appreciate it, Abdullah.
Of course, man.
So I was just diving into my quick thoughts on the Commander schedule. I know you said that we'd go 10-7, and I watched your video, and I'm pretty sure other people out there watched it. And I just said that my realistic prediction for this team is 9-8. And if you're cool with it, we can go week by week in the schedule and decide or discuss sort of the odds of us winning during that given week. So week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. What are your thoughts on that matchup and us potentially securing our first win at home first week of the season?
Okay. Honestly, I think this should be an easy win, but we're Washington fans, so it comes and goes. But for the Commanders, I mean, Jacksonville, Travon Walker, I don't think he'll be immediately impactful. And Trevor Lawrence, they overpaid for Christian Kirk. Maybe the offense got a little bit better, but again, it's just from where we were last year, we should beat this team. So week 1 is a dub for me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I also agree. I think week 1 will eventually be a W, but I do think it's gonna be a close game. I know Trevor Lawrence did not have the greatest of stats last year, but he showed a lot of ability last year, and he's still the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft in 2021, and he has all the talent. So and also you got to factor in the fact that they did draft Trevon Walker, but they also have a lot of talent around Trevor Lawrence, right? And on that defense as well. Josh Allen's on that defense. A lot of people forget about him. They also have a Travis Etienne, who did not play last year, was a first-round pick, did not play because of the injury. He will be there. James Robinson as well. They added some pieces to the receiving group, including Christian Kirk, who we can talk about his bloated contract as much as we want, but he's still a very solid player, and I think he will thrive in Jacksonville under Doug Peterson's tutelage and also with Trevor Lawrence throwing him the ball.
And
Can't forget about the Brandon. I was just about to say my guy, Brandon Sharp, as well. Bakar Taji, Abdullah Salah in the chat. And also, brother Nati, this year we will surprise a lot of people. Carson Wentz has to prove something to the league with weapons. We'll get to Carson Wentz and my thoughts on him and Abdullah's thoughts on him a little bit later in the stream. But right now we're going week by week on the schedule. And I think we both agree, to put it succinctly, that we will win in Jacksonville, although it might be tougher than a lot of fans think it will be come week 1.
Is it
week 2
or is it Jacksonville?
Yeah, it's at home. Yeah, so that helps a lot. Although I don't know if we have much of a home field advantage, but it is week 1, so we'll probably have a home field advantage. Definitely. But week 2, Detroit Lions away, 1 p.m. game. Thoughts on that?
So Detroit, they still have Jared Goff at QB. Add some weapons this offseason with Jamison Williams. They still have Amon St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson. the running back. What's his name? Sorry, I keep forgetting.
On the
Good in
Lions, DeAndre
fantasy, yeah.
Swift.
DeAndre Swift, yeah, yeah. And Aiden Hutchinson. But again, a young team like the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I think it should be a win. But I say we start off 2-0.
Yeah, I think the Lions. I think the Lions might surprise some folks this year. I think they have a lot of talent on offense, a lot of talent on defense. I mean, obviously, a lot has to do with Jared Goff, right? In terms of their chances this year. And I'm not the biggest of Jared Goff fans, but they have some weapons around him. They have a DeAndre Swift at running back, right? They have a couple of receivers. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was a very good rookie receiver last year, finished the season off very strong, especially if you guys play fantasy football, you would know what I mean. And almost had 1,000 yards last year, even while not starting at the beginning of the season. And they obviously drafted Aiden Hutchinson as well. They have a very good cornerback. I forgot his name, but a very good cornerback there. Not Jeff Okuda. I think it was actually a guy they drafted in the later rounds who ended
Yeah,
up being
I know
a
what you're
stud
talking
for
about.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. The Lions look like they're going to be a tough test for us, but I also have us being the Lions. So I have us starting off the season 2-0, much like you, Abdullah, and Brandon in the chat. Cowboys saying Detroit won't be easy at all. Remember the Ravens and Steelers games? Yeah, I agree. Detroit won't be easy. Dan Campbell is a pretty good coach. I think he's shown a little bit of his chops thus far, and they have some talent on both sides of the ball. But I think eventually we will win those two games, especially because we're playing Detroit early in the season, right? We're playing Detroit when maybe their pieces might not gel right away, right? They might need some time. So I think that might be a plus for us, I should say. And then James here, electric cars, it will never be the future. All right, okay, okay. So we went through the first 2 weeks. Week 3, ooh, this is when the games start getting tougher, in my opinion. Eagles, week 3, 1 p.m. game. Thoughts on that matchup? And this will be at home.
This will be a revenge game for Carson. I think I think this is our first loss of the season, just because the Eagles. I mean, although a lot of people set them on last year and they did perform well, even though they played against not a hard schedule at all. Jalen Hurts, they got AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, still have a pretty good running game. The defense is not terrible, and I just think eventually we're gonna have to lose one at the beginning of the season. So I think it starts off with the Eagles.
Yeah, I have us also losing against the Eagles, even though it's at home. People, they're gonna probably be comments about this in the chat with some pushback, but people love to hate on me for this take. But I think Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Carson Wentz at this point. I know Carson Wentz has all the talent in the world that you want. He's over 6 feet tall. He has strong arm. He uses his arm pretty effectively. But Jalen Hurts has all the intangibles that you want at the quarterback position. There's a reason why the Eagles got rid of Carson Wentz and stuck with Jalen Hurts, and it wasn't just salary related. I have us losing against the Eagles at home, and this might be foreshadowing a little bit later on, but I also have us losing away at the Eagles as well. I think the Eagles will be the top team in the NFC East this year, while the next team that we'll be discussing won't be, and that is the Dallas Cowboys. So week 4, away game at Jerry's World. Thoughts on that matchup and whether we can secure a dub?
I think we can secure a dub. I mean, even though it's at Dallas, the Cowboys they lost a lot of good offensive linemen this past offseason, and they don't have Amari Cooper anymore. That's huge for their offense. Now their best receivers are CeeDee Lamb and Cedric Wilson and Michael Gallup. Again, with our defense that got a little bit better this offseason and our offense adding weapon Jahan Dotson, I think we're better than the Cowboys when it comes to their offensive receiving core. And defensively, I think we're way better. Obviously, Michael Parsons is a stud. Trevon Diggs, although he is overrated. Um, yeah, I just think we'll definitely we'll split. I definitely think we'll split with them.
Okay, I think we will split with them as well, but I think we'll lose the game at Dallas. I think it will be 2 straight losses in the first 4 weeks of the schedule. I just think, I mean, we saw what happened last year. I get it. Everybody's going to talk about how we had COVID, injuries, and all that. But I still think, you got to deal with Michael Parsons, bro. You got to deal with Michael Parsons. I think Michael Parsons is a game record. And unfortunately, he's on Dallas's side, right? And I think he will ultimately lead the Cowboys to a W during that matchup. And again, I think we'll start off 2-2, 2 straight wins, and then 2 straight losses right after that. Then we have the Titans, week 5. Thoughts on that matchup? That will be at home as well.
Hopefully, maybe Malik Willis might get the.
Well, hold on, Abdullah. Bro, Brandon, give Terry an actual quarterback, a capable quarterback like he has now in Carson Wentz, right? We can talk about Carson Wentz and how he's not the answer in DC all we want, but he's pretty capable. Give Terry a Carson Wentz and see how much he catches the ball and runs up the field and stuff, because he got open a couple of times against your boy Diggs, right? And he just didn't get the ball because Taylor Heineke could not throw him the ball. So go ahead, Abdullah. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I was talking about the Titans, and I mean, they did lose AJ Brown, so that is a huge loss in their offense. Defensively, I still think they're there, but it just all depends on Ryan Tannehill, and I just feel like we can win this game for sure after coming off, what was it, 2 losses, or 1 win and 1 loss for me. So I have us winning at home against Tennessee.
Oh, you have us winning at home. Okay, so I agree that. Well, actually, I don't agree. I know AJ Brown is definitely a loss for the Tennessee Titans. But is anybody are you guys forgetting that this man's AJ Brown is always injured? He's like, in my opinion, he's like the Anthony Davis of the NFL. Like, he's made of glass. I've had him on my fantasy team 2 straight years, and he's just never available, bro. And occasionally he'll go off for a very good game, but then he'll just have a dud game. So, I mean, you sort of had the Amari Cooper effect a little bit when he was healthy, right? And that was that wasn't very often. So I just think you got to contain Derrick Henry. I know Pedarian Mathis might help a bunch because he's a run stopper. We drafted him in the 2nd round. What's up, Kurt? He is a run stopper, but at the end of the day, I think Derrick Henry might be a little bit too much. And people forget, when Derrick Henry was healthy last year, he was the best running back in football, even ahead of Jonathan Taylor. Our boy, Jonathan Taylor. So I got us losing that game as well and starting off the season 2-3. And Clash with GAV saying Diggs needs to focus on man-to-man instead of interceptions. I agree with that take. What is your thoughts on this, Abdullah? Is AJ Brown elite? I mean, he's very good, but at the end of the day, availability is oftentimes the best ability, and he just hasn't been super available the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's why I don't know why people think he's better than Terry, because he just hasn't been available. How can you say that?
Yeah. Some rando here. I really don't see any teams who play outside the division with multiple legit weapons outside the Vikings, Browns. We'll talk about the Browns a little bit later, but I hate the fact that we're playing them late in the schedule and not early. And we'll dive into why. But okay, so you have us going what, 3-2? No, 4-1?
No.
Through first 5 games?
I do have us going 4.
Okay. I have us going 2-3. Nati the pessimist right here. AJ Brown is very good, but he's made of glass. Exactly. Okay, Kurt Smith, to me, Scott and Jack, I think he's talking about Scott Turner and Jack Del Rio should be on notice from the fans for sure, man. Especially Jack Del Rio. I think Jack Del Rio is on the hot seat, bro. You cannot have as much talent as he had last year. Especially you can not have as much talent as he has this year and underperform, right? So I definitely think Jack Del Rio.
I mean, if anything, Scott's also, because you have Jahan Dodson, hopefully a healthy Curtis. Logan Thomas comes in. You drafted more offensive players and defensive players. There's really no excuses. You have a quarterback that's capable of taking you to the playoffs, so we'll see.
Yep. And then the next matchup, man, are against arguably, I wouldn't say that the worst, but arguably the worst team in the NFL. Sad to say. Yes, it's sad to say because gotta love the Bears. Chicago resident last 4 years, but man, Chicago. What are your thoughts on that matchup? And we'll get Nathan in as well from Earth District.
They didn't really help out Justin Fields this offseason as I thought they would. I just think they're going to be a bottom team in the NFC, so should be an easy win. Especially it's on Thursday Night Football, so hopefully we embarrass them on national television.
Yeah, I agree. But Nathan, what's up? How are you? Oh, we can't hear you. Oh no.
It's just the physical mute.
Yeah.
Greetings and salutations. Thanks for having me on, guys.
No problem. No problem. We're just going week by week through the schedule right now. We're at the Bears, but we can get into your thoughts for the first 5 weeks going. From
I was listening. I was listening on the drive back to the house from the store, and I agree. I chatted. I put a couple in the chat there. Some thoughts. I really going just kind of working the way backwards. The Dallas game, for instance, I'm so looking forward to Terry McLaurin absolutely lighting up Diggs. It's going to happen. It happened the year prior, and then this last year, there were some separation issues. Obviously, Heineke's limitations you weren't able to exploit that. I'm not saying Diggs is bad, but he's he's min-maxing, right? Like he's either going to get an interception or he's going to get beat. And I think Terry has the tools. If it's not Terry, it'll be Dotson, and it'll be an embarrassment of riches for, now that Wentz is there and able to throw the ball deep. And I think honestly, something Fitzpatrick would have done last year as well.
But what are we going to do about Michael Parsons? Because even with the elite offensive line that we had last year, I mean, we couldn't contain him or Tank
He's
Lawrence.
A problem. I did not want to see him go to Dallas, and yet there he is. He's definitely a problem. I think that they'll be able to contain him, and I think that a lot of that's going to come down to Scott Turner. Really, it's going to be his game plan to keep the ball kind of away from the areas that Micah Parsons is attacking. And I think that that's going to be what the key factor there. Look for JD McKissick to be, very useful in that as probably our best pass blocking back. And so as long as they're able to minimize and give Carson, 4 seconds, right? That's all he's going to need to be able to do some damage. Then I think that you can do there. Not Micah Parsons probably going to get a sack or 2 in the game. He's going to be disruptive, but I think that they can overcome that. And I think hopefully that Scott Turner, this offense will be a little bit better. Like I said, really just looking forward to Diggs, all that Diggs talk. Cause those Cowboy fans were just they're Cowboys fans, right? That's what they were. Nothing more needs to be said. I missed the Titans game as far as the working, like I said, working the way backwards. Derrick Henry is a beast, and he's going to be a problem. You brought up Mathis and being a run stopper. You got a couple other first round picks up there that hopefully can help out with that. That one's going to be an interesting game, though. Are we going to see Tannehill? Or are we going to see Willis? Is what's going to be interesting to me for that game. Have they turned the keys over? Tennessee was a playoff team last year. Not only were they a playoff team, they were, I believe, the first seed in a loaded AFC. So, they're going to be challenging, but I think that, more so than Henry and whether or not they're able to stop him is they have an underrated defense. And I think that they will be able to keep this, that's going to be one of those games that we've experienced over the last couple of years where somebody's going to win 19-17. It's not going to be a high scoring game. It's not going to be probably a very exciting game to watch because it's just going to be Derrick Henry, running, 25 to 30 times for, 150 yards. And our offense just tried to put up anything against that defense there. Eagles is week 3. Who's week 4? Who did
week 4 is Cowboys.
Yeah. Cowboys. Okay, so Eagles week 3. Jalen Hurts is so much better than Eagles fans are willing to admit. I think that a lot of them want to move on and get somebody who's elite caliber. Hey, Kurt, how's it going, man? I like Jalen Hurts. I think that he was drafted probably too high in the second round, and some of those expectations were put on him. I think that Carson Wentz, you don't need you're being paid, so you don't need the motivation to come out. But I do think Carson Wentz will have someone of motivation to come up and play well for Washington against the team that really kicked him to the curb, both by picking Jalen Hurts in the second round and then getting rid of him after he had an MVP caliber season. So you talked about, Nati, the lines being so much better than people are giving them credit for. And I agree. I think someone put it really well. I can't remember who it was that I saw this from, but they're going to be a very difficult to beat 6 or 7 win team this
Yeah.
year. The Lions are. They won't be an easy out. They'll be fighting. As much as a lot of people were teasing, the coach and his kind of machismo attitude that he has. They will play some solid football. I'm not convinced they have a QB that's going to win them a lot of games, but I think much like Ron Rivera has kept Washington in games that it shouldn't be, I think Detroit will do that throughout the year. And I think there'll be a victory for Washington, but it won't be an easy blowout game. Neither will week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that both Carson Wentz's history against them and just that, their new coach and what they're going to be able to do. I'm not looking, you got to look back to just this past season, week one against a sophomore QB that was able to play pretty well against Washington in this defense. Ron Rivera and his teams historically come out very slow out the gates. So this is going to be one of those ones where it could just be a trap game for Washington. I mean, trap game week 1's kind of difficult to do, but I think a lot of people expect Washington to start 2-0, and they're going to be either disappointed or not as happy if they get 2-0, because those aren't going to be walk-away victories where some people are a little bullish. And I tell people all the time, and we joke about this with Ref the District and Trev, made that video with Trev, we're 17-0 until we find out otherwise. Hopefully it's not going to be within those first 2 weeks that we find out.
Agreed. And some rando here in the chat, Henry is also getting older. So this is what I wanted to get to. So with Derrick Henry and the Tennessee Titans, you mentioned how they were first place in the entire AFC before he went down with an injury, and everybody likes to talk about how the tail end of the season they fell off, and even when Henry came back, they didn't win games or anything. But I think a lot of people forget he still had screws in his foot. He still was coming off a injury where he missed multiple games off of, and before that injury, he was the best running back in football, even ahead of Jonathan Taylor. And Ryan Tannehill did not need to do much, right? Everybody's talking about the loss of AJ Brown and what that will bring to the Tennessee Titans offense. But they really ran Derrick Henry sort of every single time during the games leading up to, when he ultimately got hurt. So if they could, sort of have the same philosophy against us and just use Derrick Henry and run him roughshod against the Washington defense, I mean, it's a possible W for them even without an AJ Brown on their offense.
Yeah, 900 yards in 8 games. I mean, that's just a beast. I mean, he did run 219 times, so you're right. That offense is just going to go through him. I mean, if you look at the past 4 years, he's passed 200. So 2018, 215 touches, 303 in 2019, 378 in his 2027 yardage season there in 2020. So, I mean, he does have some wear and tear. He is getting older. This is going to be his 7th year coming off of injury. So there's going to be some question marks there, but I mean, a lot of people thought it was going to be questionable going into the playoffs. And I think that he looked reasonably well in that playoff game. So I think you're going to get full force Derrick Henry, and he's just going to continue on this historic, just crazy, path that he is for being a running back here in the NFL these years.
And class with JV here, Burks is going to be amazing though. I don't think we were forgetting about Treylon Burks. It's just that we have Jahan Dotson as well, so I feel like that might be a wash in terms of rookie receivers.
And Burks is just replacing AJ Brown. I mean, so it's not like you're facing AJ Brown and Treylon Burks, who you're going to have that dynamic 1-2 punch. You're just that offense is Derrick Henry, and then it was AJ Brown. Now you're going to see Treylon Burks. I don't think they really. I still don't think that they have. And whether or not it's Malik Willis or Tannehill, I don't think they're going to have a passing game that's really going to be a threat. It's just something that's not going to, and they're probably going to lose more games from their passing game, especially this year without AJ Brown. But their passing game is just there to keep them in the game and keep defenses honest. So they're not stacking the box, even though they're going to stack the box, and Derrick Henry's still going to get his. But yeah, they're not, like the Rams or Kansas City where they're going to be airing out the ball a whole lot. That's just not what the offense is designed to do in Tennessee.
Yeah. And just getting back to where we were in the schedule and stuff. So Abdullah had us going, I believe, 5-1 through the Chicago game, right? So the first 6 weeks of the schedule. I had us going 3-3. What are your thoughts, Nathan, through the Chicago
Wow,
game?
what 3 games do you have us losing? I think Chicago's going to be a W. I'm not,
Yeah,
even though it's a
yeah,
primetime game. I'm still not convinced they know what they're doing in Chicago. And even though a lot of us wanted the QB that's there now, I think that we're in a good, if not better, situation with Carson Wentz, which is not something I thought I would have been saying a couple months ago before the trade.
yeah.
Let's see. I think this is probably a 4-2 up through the first 6 games. Looking at that, I do think that we'll, out of the real tough stretch there, which is the Eagles, Cowboys, and Titans, I think that we're going to be able to win one of those. And my hope that it's the Cowboys. But I think the first 2 games are winnable. I think that'll be probably a little bit more of a shocker to people. As I mentioned, you win one of the next 3 and then you beat Chicago to be 4-2. I think that's a fair start for this season, and needed too, because the back half of the schedule is not doing us any favors. I don't know if you guys saw the tweet. Let me see if I can't bring it up from but it talks about how Washington plays 4 teams that have mini buys, and it's all in the back end of the schedule. So yeah, it's, you want to get through that. Yeah. So it's from Warren Sharp. Not to get too far ahead of you here on the schedule, week 10, week 13, week 16, and week 18, every single one of those teams have 10 days rest to Washington's 7 days rest. So kind of a mini buy. And this is not the first year. Obviously last year we had similar scheduling things in there. So you're going to you can't start this year slow. You're going to want to start this year strong, especially leading into these next games. Green Bay, Indianapolis, Minnesota is not going to be an easy game. Back with Philly, and Houston should be a win, a little break there, but who knows? Davis Mills might be the next great quarterback there.
Yeah, I mean, but to answer your question about who I got the losses against, so I think like last year, I think we'll split against the Cowboys, but I think we'll lose at Jerry's World and win at FedEx Field. I know I'm getting ahead of
the Cowboys last year, but I think it was the year before.
We played better. We played better. That's what I meant. We played better when they were at FedEx Field. Cole Holcomb had that interception. I mean, we were one Carter catch, one DeAndre Carter catch away from really driving against the Cowboys last drive, potentially tying up the game after losing by 20 points, 15 points, something like that.
It was an ugly loss, that first one.
Yeah. So I think so because of that, I think we'll lose week 4. This might rub a lot of people the wrong way, but I'm sorry, guys. The Eagles, in my opinion, are the best team in this division. And while they're not marketably better than us, I still have us losing both of those matchups. And week 3, given that week 3 will be a loss for us, and then Tennessee I had as a loss. So I have the Jacksonville Jaguars, Detroit Lions, and Chicago Bears as wins, starting up our season 3-3.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think that's good. I don't know about the Eagles being the, like you said, it's probably close. I'm looking forward to the NFC East kind of returning to those glory years where it was the NFC beast, right? And we were kind of like the SEC of the NFL. The only losses we were getting were in division games, and that was always a slogfest. But I can see, especially in a weaker NFC, that the East puts in 3 teams into the playoffs. So preferably Washington being the division champion.
Yeah, for sure. So on to week 7, though. We're playing the Green Bay Packers at home. Aaron Rodgers, no Devontae Adams, but now they have Christian Watson. They still have their good stable of running backs, better defense as well via their 2 first-round picks. Thoughts on that matchup and whether Washington could secure the likely upset W against Green Bay?
Well, I mean, when you're looking at what they did last year against Green Bay, that game was a lot closer than what I think people expected. And I think that if the offense improves the way that we were hoping it was going to improve last year under Ryan Fitzpatrick, and now here with Carson Wentz, I think this is going to be a really close game. The Devontae Adams thing is pretty big for Green Bay, losing him because he is definitely, a top, 3, if not top 5, if not 3 wide receiver. But it's Aaron Rodgers. It doesn't matter. List the names of wide receivers that he's been throwing to and producing MVP caliber seasons. It doesn't matter who's out there. You mentioned Christian Watson, whether or not he's going to be effective, compared to any of the other rando names that you throw out there. It looks like, Madden just random generated player names, right? So it's Aaron Rodgers. That's going to be the biggest thing. I don't think that they really addressed their offensive line, and that's going to be a matchup that I think that Washington could potentially exploit. I do think that their defense is pretty good, but whether or not they're able to protect Aaron Rodgers is going to be the key factor here. And it might look a lot like the Super Bowl game where, if they can't protect Aaron Rodgers, it's not going to matter how flashy their offense can be.
Okay. So do you have that being a W or an L for us?
I'm going to put it down as an L. I think that, Green Bay it's still Aaron Rodgers. Stoner on Ref the District, he just goes by who's the better quarterback. He's going to pick the victory for there. I'm going to kind of go with that here, and I'm just going to say Aaron Rodgers gets the victory against Washington.
Okay. Abdullah, is it also an L for you as well?
Yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Have that being an L. So I guess going off for predictions now. So Nathan, you have us going 4-3 through Green Bay.
Yeah.
Abdullah, you have us going. Yeah, Abdullah, you have us going 5-2, correct, through Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have us going, unfortunately 3-4 through Green Bay. But then we get to play against Indy in the Carson Wentz revenge game. This will be at Indy as well, so the fans will be hyped. Thoughts on that matchup, Week 8, and whether Washington can secure the W? We'll start with Nathan again.
Yeah, this is going to be, I think, a very interesting game. I think, I don't believe in Matt Ryan. I know they're talking him up in Indianapolis as being very Peyton Manning-like and all this other stuff. He has really been, we talked about Derrick Henry kind of going on the downhill slide. Matt Ryan's just not really been producing the way that he was when he took Atlanta to the Super Bowl, and of course lost, as we all know. Yeah, I just don't know that. I mean, they've got a good defense. They know Carson Wentz, so I think they know where to kind of push his buttons. Now, whether or not Carson Wentz is motivated enough, especially because they've been trashing him ever since the trade. It's like they're trying to convince themselves that Carson Wentz was the problem and they are better off without him. And I just don't know that that's the case. I'm going to go with a W here for Washington. But I think that the Indianapolis run game and their defense are able to keep it close. So I don't think it's going to be something that, Taylor at running back he is going to be a problem. I'm not as high on him as probably some others. I think that, he's a good running back, but I don't think that he's not on like Derrick Henry tier. I don't think that he's that high. Me personally.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Me personally. I think that he when his career is done, people look at him as a solid running back and not, one of the top 100 players during his NFL career. He might be a top 50, top 100 running back for, since like the 90s or something like that. But I would not consider him to be, to me, you don't really game plan around him. He's just a product of being able to run the ball really well. Kind of like the Shanahan running backs, right? In Denver, you could just throw anyone back there and run. Now, Jonathan Taylor's more special than some of those. I'd put him on the same level of Clinton Portis. Okay. Clinton Portis in Denver was absolutely, just a world beater, comes here and he plays.
But you never
well
had the
for
season
Washington.
that Taylor had last year, though. That's the
You don't think
right?
so?
Leading rusher in the NFL? 1,800 yards? I know the 17 games, so maybe, reduce the yardage a little bit. But even then, that's leading rusher in the league.
That's fair. I mean, the best season. So his first two seasons. I mean, Clinton Portis put together three 1,500-yard seasons, had another one that was just shy of it, 1,487. I mean, I think that's fair to say that Jonathan Taylor ends up in that kind of category of I like Clint Bourdon. I have his jersey and everything. So, I mean.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's also the fact that we're playing Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor pretty early in the season, I think has a huge part or huge reason for why, Washington drafted Darren Mathis and the run stopper that he is and stuff. But Abdullah, what are your thoughts on the Indy matchup?
So I know it's going to be rough for Carson because that Indy defense is great, as Nathan mentioned, but I think we can get after Matt Ryan. He isn't as mobile, even as back then when he was in his prime, he wasn't mobile at all. So our defensive line should get there. I feel like it's going to be a really close game, and I think we come out of Indy with the dub.
Okay. Kurt Smith here. Nati, you have every right to be pessimistic. Commanders have to prove themselves to the fans. I'm going to continue being pessimistic. I think we will get an L against Indy just because I think while our defense is more talented than Indy's, and I would think, we have more talented playmakers, I think we have to put that talent on the field and actually produce. And in terms of their defense, last year they were, I believe, eighth or ninth in points allowed in the NFL. And we were, with obviously our injuries, with COVID and everything, we were in the 20s in a lot of defensive rankings. So until this defense shows me they can consistently be good, I got to go with Indy here. And I think Jonathan Taylor, and Nathan, I get your take that Jonathan Taylor might not be in the Derrick Henry of tiers, but I still think he's a very good running back, top 5 at least in the NFL right now. And I think it's going to be very hard to stop him. I also think Matt Ryan, while yes, he's not what he was before, right, as the MVP type of quarterback, I think he could pull some wins together for Indy. And I think he might even be an upgrade over Carson Wentz for Indy in terms of their scheme and how we will fit there in Indy. But yeah, so I have us going 3-5. Abdullah has us going 6-2, right?
Yep.
Nathan has us going 5-3.
5-3
right?
is what I'm at. Yep.
Okay, so
I put down. I kind of said win 2 of those, that 3-game stretch there at the end of September, beginning of October. I'm going to put down, and so we'll see if this comes true. Winning against Philadelphia, losing against Dallas, but winning against Tennessee. This is what I had. No, sorry, losing against Tennessee and Dallas rather, and then winning against Philly. Starting 3-0. That's. I think we'd be over the moon if that's
exactly
if that's really
exactly. All right, then we're playing our boy Kirk Cousins, week 9 of the season. This will be at home too. Thoughts on us securing the W against Kirk Cousins and company, Nathan?
This game's going to come down to whether or not the defensive backs, whether or not it's Jackson, Fuller, Benjamin St-Juste, the undrafted free agent that they just signed for Adams for 3 years. Pretty excited to see that from a historically black college university. Whether or not they're going to be able to stop Justin Jefferson. This isn't a primetime game, so you can't count on Kirk, messing this one up for the Vikings. I think that the Vikings are probably an underrated team. I think that they're probably going to have a good season. And I think that this is going to be a game where Washington's upset with the outcome. I think that the Vikings win this one.
Okay.
I'm really high on Justin Jefferson. That guy's just unbelievable.
Special.
Yeah, Justin is special. And I think this is the first time that Kirk's playing us back when, at our place. I just think we won't be able to keep up, especially, the Dalvin Cook. And they also have Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson. The defense isn't as bad as people make it seem. So I think that's a loss.
We talked about A.J. Brown being made of glass, though, earlier, Abdul. I think Adam Thielen is even more so made of glass. He can never stay healthy. But, oh, my gosh, shocker here. I think I'm actually going to go with the W for the first time, while the other 2 esteemed guests on this channel are going with L's. I don't believe in Kirk Cousins one bit. He is a mediocre quarterback. I don't care what stats he puts up. He does not win games. He won't win you games. He is very much of the Carson Wentz sort of ilk, right? Like he needs a supporting cast, a very good supporting cast around him to win games. But even then, am I wrong, or did the Vikings win about the same amount of games since Kirk Cousins left, right, that Washington has won in that time frame? I'm pretty sure I've seen every season. I always check the Vikings record just to see how Kirk Cousins is doing because we got love for Kirk.
He did hit double digits in
8-9.
2019. Yeah, he hit double digit in 2019, but he was 8-7-1, 10-5, 7-9, 8-8. Yeah, his career record is literally, QB wins and losses aren't really a thing, but he's 59-2. The most 500 QB you're ever going to see. Not only that, and to your effect here, and I know I picked against him on this particular one. You got to look at those teams that he walked into. Minnesota was one win away from going to the Super Bowl. They pick up what they think is going to be a quality QB because they had the run game. They had the defense to get them to that next step. And then they just get mired in mediocrity. And this is where I'm happy Washington didn't keep Cousins. I think that you're right as far as Wentz. They need more help to win. And I just don't know that Kirk Cousins is going to be able to ever put that together. So Mr. Mediocre.
Yeah. So
I'm surprised you think Thielen's, by the way, a glass. I know that he's missed some time over the last 3 seasons. He's, played 13 games last year, 15 the year before, and 10 the year before that. But then he had a couple he had back-to-back 16 games. Before that, he didn't miss a single game, right? He might have not started every single game, but he was in there. So I'm surprised to hear you think that he's injury prone.
So I was more so talking about, the last couple of seasons, especially because A.J. Brown, has played the last couple of seasons, and just comparing the two, they both missed a good amount of games. And it's unfortunate because he had Stephon Diggs before. Now he has Justin Jefferson, a very good receiver alongside him. And I want to see him play games, be on the field consistently over 16, 17 game stretch, but that just hasn't been the case the last couple of seasons. And I think my fantasy football sort of experiences have also sort of been incorporated, in my opinion, here on.
He's let you down too many times. Huh?
Yeah. So I definitely think that that's the case. But Brandon Williams. So Brandon's a Cowboys fan, and I think
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I know. Sorry to hear that, but I think we might agree on him or with him on this take. Kirk should be arrested for robbing the Vikings. No trade clause as well.
Everything guaranteed, no trade clause. He must have something on that front office staff because goodness gracious. I honestly thought that when he did that first deal with Minnesota, and it was all guaranteed, that we were going to start seeing that become more of the trend for NFL contracts. I thought he was kind of going to be kind of a trailblazer for it. And then it just never happened until the QB we'll be talking about for week 17. So that's interesting to see. I do think that the contracts and salary cap are going to change over the next decade and how it's played out and how money is handled. And I think that's going to be very interesting for the game and how it develops, especially as different positions become, more important. Look at the wide receiver trades that were going absolutely wild this year, and the paychecks that are being handed out to the wide receivers. You're seeing, the linebacker being devalued as the league shifts to a passing league. And so, running backs have already been devalued over the last, 10, 15 years. So a lot of interesting things going in there with Kirk Cousins of all QBs getting, all this guaranteed money over the last 5 seasons.
Yeah, agreed. Ron Diff here saying Kirk has had way more talent than Carson. I think that's fair. And that just sort of adds support to my opinion that I think the Commanders could go in there or at home, I should say, at FedEx Field and secure the win against Minnesota. But so going back on our record prediction. So at this point of the season, Abdullah has us going 6-3. I have us going 4-5. And Nathan, you have us going 5-4, correct? Right.
Yep, that's it.
Okay. Then we're playing the Philadelphia Eagles, prime time, week 10, 8:15 p.m. I believe that's Monday Night Football. thoughts on that matchup? And that will be away at Philly as well.
Yeah, I had winning week 3, so this one I think is gonna chalk down to an L for Washington, and panic is gonna set in for fans, right? So if they're 5-5 at this point in the season, I think when people look at it's supposed to be one of the easier schedules, I think that fans are going to be really rabid and not happy with it. But I do think that they'll still be primed for that back half of the schedule. I think like you, I think Eagles are one of the better teams. So yeah, but this one's going to be tough. It is, Monday night. We've kind of broken that curse a little bit over the last couple of years as far as not being able to play in primetime games. We're at least not employing Kurt, so at least we won't have to worry about that implosion. But the team still has to prove that it can actually really put together these quality games time and time again. But so I have them in a little bit of a skid here, losing that November 14th game.
Okay. Abdullah?
Yeah, I at most I would say a split between us and Philly, but again, I think Philly's just really dangerous and underrated. And Monday night, Carson going back home, that crowd's going to be very hostile. So I have us losing, getting swept by the Eagles.
Okay. I agree. I have us unfortunately getting swept by the Eagles. In this week NFC, I could see this is how high on the Eagles I am, Nathan. I could see the Eagles potentially vying for a spot in I know this is going to sound crazy, but maybe the second round of the playoffs, if not even further than that. I mean, the Rams, in my opinion, are the clear-cut number 1 team in the NFC. But after that, you got the Tampa Bay Bucks, right, with Tom Brady. Green Bay Packers, who don't have Devontae Adams anymore, and I think got worse in the offseason. And then who else after that, right? So I think the Eagles might be in the mix of being a very good team in the NFC. And I unfortunately have us losing against the Eagles in week 10 as well. So at that point in the season, Abdullah has us going 6-4. I have us going 4-6. And Nathan has us going 5-5. But this is where, in my opinion, over the next 4 weeks, where the schedule definitely lightens up for this team. Nathan, what are your thoughts on the Houston Texans in week 11?
I like Lovie Smith. I think that he's a good coach, seems to have good character. I don't think that Houston has yet to put the tools together to have a team that's problematic. I do think Davis Mills is actually pretty good. It's hard to really say, a quarterback taken in the 4th is going to be, a starter. But I mean, Kirk Cousins is a 4th round pick, and I think that Davis Mills can at least get to that kind of level of play. He was actually a QB that I wanted Washington to look at last year in those mid rounds, but I think the QBs just all went higher than I would have picked them. But yeah, Davis Mills has that pedigree, and I think that Lovie Smith will coach well. Him and Ron, I think, have a lot of similarities in that fact. But yeah, no, this is an easy W when it comes down to it for Washington.
Yep. Yeah. And Brandon saying Saints in terms of teams that might vie for a contention in the NFC. I don't know about that. You have Jameis Winston at quarterback. I'm sorry.
No mention of San Francisco. They were literally just at the championship game.
I don't know, especially if Deebo gets traded. I mean, that's what he wants. I don't know. We'll talk about that a little bit.
I think it's a little less of being traded. I know we're going to talk about it later. I think it's more so he just wants to make sure that he is not put in a position where he's going to get injured and lose out on one of these big contracts. So that's the important thing for him. They run their offense through him, and he sees that. And so he either wants to get paid now before an injury happens, or stick to just playing wide receiver where it's less likely he's going to be getting, beat up, trying to run against the tackles and stuff.
Yep. Tua.
I think this Texans game should be the same as the Chicago game, where it's not a tough matchup. And honestly, Davis Mills is young. The whole team is young. So easy win for us.
Yeah. I agree with you guys. Easy dub for us. Texans, they added talent in the draft, and they do have Davis Mills, who, like Nathan, I'm very much like a believer in, or been a believer in since the draft. But at the end of the day, I think that's going to be a W for us. And so at that point in the season, Abdullah has us going 7-4. I have us going 5-6. and Nathan has us going 6-5. And I mean, I guess to just like go through this really quickly. This is how I look at things from weeks 11 through week 15. I have us getting 4 straight W's against Houston,
Same.
against Atlanta,
Mhm.
against New York twice. Are you in agreement? So Nathan is, Abdullah, you too?
Yeah.
Okay. So so let me add on 3 W's.
Yeah.
Abdullah's total.
Move it through there. Yeah, Atlanta's not anything right now. I think they're still trying to figure out what they're going to be doing with their future. I think they have some exciting pieces there. The Giants, I think the Giants are going to implode this season, and then they're going to move away from Jones, and you have to be able to sweep the Giants, especially for your guys' picks, where they're either being swept by the Eagles and splitting the Cowboys or whatnot. You have to be able to go 4-2 in the division. So if you're going to split the Eagles or be swept by the Eagles or the Cowboys, then you need to win these Giants games. And being before the bye and after the bye is a little weird, but these should be W's for the team.
Yeah, and on the Falcons pick as well. I mean, now they have Marcus Mariota and potentially Desmond Ridder at that point in the season getting reps at quarterback. They have no weapons on offense besides maybe Pharaoh Patterson, but he fell off towards the end of the season, and Pitts as well.
I was about to say, you're not going to mention that guy.
No,
He's an absolute beast. He needs to show that he's actually productive in the red zone and actually score some touchdowns. Something that
he only had 1 last year, right?
I think he might have had 2, but I mean, it was a very low number for a guy who's like 6'5". So you want to be able to get some good play out of your now sophomore. It was just the 1 touchdown.
Crazy.
So 1,000 yards though.
Mm-hmm. But I think the loss of Matt Ryan. I mean, last year the game was close, but I think Matt Ryan had a lot to do with that, and he's no longer there. So, yeah, and you talked about the Giants, and we already talked about the Texans. So, through week 15, Abdullah has us going 10-4. I have us going 8-6, and Nathan, as always, right, going in the middle, has us going 9-5. So then we face a very tough stretch. We got the 49ers in week 16, starting off that stretch. Nathan, what are your thoughts on that game? And I guess you can get into the Deebo Samuel talk as well.
Yeah. Before we go to that, I have a question for you two. What do you feel about the week 14 bye?
Yeah, I did not like it at all, but then I thought about it, and it's as if we have injuries and everything piled up, it would be good that it would be at the second half of the season rather earlier in the season. So
yeah, I definitely agree that I would rather have it be that late than super early. I think it's going to be super important because, again, we're going to have that tough 3-game stretch against San Fran, against Cleveland, with Deshaun Watson likely in my opinion, and Dallas at the end. I think it's going to be a tough stretch. So I like the bye week being right before that second Giants game, giving us sort of that easy game right after, and then the tough stretch afterwards. So I like it. Although I will say, it might be tough because we're playing 13 games before the bye, and we have some tough matchups even before that bye week. So we need our guys to stay healthy, and the bye week to be a really good period for us to get some relaxation, and also for a lot of the guys who might be injured to recover. So I am a little mixed on it, but I'm more so in favor of it than the early bye we've had in the past.
Yeah, at least it's not a week 4 bye. Those are the absolute worst to have. But I'm not a huge fan. I can probably, like you, Abdul, talk myself into liking the week 14. I mean, if you're looking at my record at this point is 9-5, so you're looking to make a playoff push. And so in that regards, it's nice to see, get yourself rested, especially leading into these last 3 games that are going to be really the deciding factor for the season and where they're either making the playoffs or where they're seated in the playoffs. And so that part, like I said, I can talk myself into, but it's just so late in the season. You really want to see that bye come around week 8, 9, or 10. But
True.
week 14, just at that point, you might be losing some of these winnable games against the Giants, the Falcons, and Houston if you have some injuries that you need to have people recover from, and having that extra week would help alleviate some of that pressure. So, but yeah, like I said, Abdul, I think you're right. Like, it might work out, especially your record's really good, so that's going to give you a good chance to push yourself into playoff position or a good seed within the playoffs. On the San Francisco talk, your original question, before I derailed us into the bye week talk,
it's all good.
Deebo Samuel, if he's playing, they've got a good defense. Shanahan gives problems for this team. He has a vendetta against Washington, whether or not people want to believe it or not. I mean, he doesn't like us, and he's going to play to win that game. And I think that this is a game that San Francisco is going to take. I mean, you're talking about going over to the West Coast. It's going to be in San Francisco's home. I just think that this is going to be a loss for Washington. San Francisco is a better team, even if they don't believe in the Trey Lance, who they've traded all those picks for. Jimmy G is a solid contributor to the football field, so it'll be a loss for Washington here in Week 16.
Okay, Abdullah.
Yeah, I'm with the loss as well. Kyle Shanahan, he hates our guts. I don't really blame him for what he had to go through here, but Jimmy G and Trey Lance, like, who knows if they just give the keys to Trey Lance at the end of the season, and maybe we might face against him. But at the end of the day, just playing in San Francisco, West Coast, it's going to be rough. So that's an L for me.
Yeah. Ali here has us losing to San Fran. I have us losing as well, with the caveat that Deebo Samuel is still on that team, and he's not traded before the start of the season. But yeah, I have us losing. I mean, I almost forgot about them in terms of talking about the top teams in the NFC before Nathan added the 49ers, wisely added the 49ers in that talk. And yeah, they're a very good team, very good defense. They're what our defense is supposed to be. Like that if we're being honest, their defense is what our defense is supposed to be. They have offensive weapons as well. They have George Kittle. They have Deebo Samuel. They have a good stable of running backs, as always. And, it's all ultimately going to come up down to the quarterback. And I think this might be a hot take, but they might actually have a better chance with Jimmy G against us than Trey Lance, just because Trey Lance hasn't really shown too much. And I hate to say it because we're actually like twins. We share the same birth date and everything. And I'm rooting for him, but I don't know. Jimmy G kind of.
He is a mobile quarterback, which gives Washington problems. So there's that aspect. And Jimmy G's health will play a factor in here as well. I mean, Dave is talking about you can't lose to Kirk Cousins and Jimmy G, but I think that's going to be one of the questions that they're going to have going into the playoffs is if they lose to those kind of QBs, are they really going to be contenders even if they sneak into the playoffs? But yeah, Trey Lance, I think, could give this team problems with that running ability, but I think we still see Jimmy G here. I think that he'll be healthy enough, and I think San Francisco believes in his ability to bring them back to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, and under-discussed thing as well is no matter how good, how talented our defensive line is, the 49ers are always going to find holes on the ground. Like their offensive line is always going to open up holes in the run game, and they always run roughshod against opposing defenses, no matter how good they are. And I think Kyle Shanahan is one of the best in the business, if not the best, in terms of opening up the run game. So I think that might be a little tough, too tough for us to handle come Week 16. But Week 17 against the Cleveland Browns, I hate the fact that we're playing them late in the season because that just increases the likelihood that Deshaun Watson will be playing against us. But Nathan, thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, that one's I'm trying to think of what I told I have a Browns friend, and he laughed and he was just like, well, I know you're at least catching one L. And so I brought up the fact that, we were hoping this game was going to be, we fans of the Commanders were hoping this game was going to be earlier in the season. So we didn't have to, I said that I'm disappointed that it's so late. We were hoping to dodge Watson like he's dodging these allegations is how I put it. I still think that there's a chance that Deshaun Watson doesn't play this year, you're looking at some of the recent bans that players have had, 6 weeks for one allegation knocked down to 4 weeks. So I think that there's still some potential that he's just in a legal battle at this point as well. And if that's the case, I don't think we see Deshaun Watson. I like Baker Mayfield. I don't think that he's a great quarterback, but I do think that he is a capable quarterback who can win some games. Problem is whether or not he's going to be playing for the Browns at this point as well, because he's not happy with his situation. So at that point, if it's not Deshaun Watson and it's not Baker Mayfield, who are they trotting out there that's really going to scare you? I like their running back tandem. I think that they have one of the better running games. I believe in their coach, but I'm not so certain the rest of it's going to be able to come together. They also have a good defense. Myles Garrett is really, really good. And but yeah, this is a game I think that Washington can steal if Deshaun Watson doesn't play. I think if Deshaun Watson plays, you know what? We're still getting the W.
Oh,
I think they can take it. I think they can take this one.
Okay, so Nathan 10-6 at that point. All right. Abdullah?
So I made a video a couple of days ago, or yesterday rather, that I have us going 10-7. So obviously these last 2 games I have us losing. But realistically, I just think we're gonna play Deshaun Watson. And I can imagine him and Amari having that connection late in the season, downfield, so I have us losing to Cleveland.
Yeah. It's tough because so this is how highly I think of the Browns. Nathan, I don't know if you saw this tweet earlier in the offseason. This was, I think, a week or so after Deshaun Watson was traded to the Cleveland Browns. I said that in 2023, right? So looking past this season, looking towards next season, where I think Deshaun Watson will play the entire season, the Cleveland Browns could potentially be a Super Bowl contender. Like, I could see them, like, in my opinion, with a healthy Deshaun Watson, the talent on their team overall, in terms of offense, defense, special teams, is up there with the Buffalo Bills. Like, I don't know if that's a hot take, if it's not a hot take, but they have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. The running game, the receivers as well. They did lose Jarvis Landry, but did get Amari Cooper. I believe they drafted a receiver as well, if I'm not mistaken. But I think that's the only position really where it might be a weak spot on their team. They have pretty good tight ends. The offensive line is one of the best in the league. Their defense, I mean, they have Myles Garrett. Jadeveon Clowney might come back as well. They have a very good, one of the best secondaries in the league, actually, when it comes to talent. Denzel Ward, pretty good group of safeties as well. I mean, they have a very good team, very, very good team. But with Deshaun Watson, and also with us playing them towards the tail end of the season, I think Deshaun Watson will play. I don't think he's getting suspended the entire season. I could see him getting suspended for most of it, maybe a 10-game suspension or something like that. But for a full 17-game slate, I don't know if I can see that, just because of the past suspensions that the NFL has dished out for domestic violence and sexual violence, sort of like allegations and sort of situations. They just rarely give out, and it's sad to say, they rarely give out full season suspensions for that, even while giving out full season suspensions for guys who gamble on games and stuff, which is kind of crazy. But playing. Yeah, they aren't playing as well. So I have us losing against the Cleveland Browns solely because of Deshaun Watson and what he'll bring to the table for that team towards the tail end of the season as they push for a playoff spot. So I have us through the Cleveland game. I have us going, I think it's 8-8. Yes, 8-8. Abdullah has us going 10-6, and Nathan has us going 10-6. So full 2 games above where I have them going. Outlaw King, longtime supporter of this channel. Shout out to you. You guys have no faith in this team. And not that we have no faith. In 2020, I predicted 7-9. Last year, I predicted 8-9. This year, I'm predicting 9-8. And I'll get to why I have us winning against Dallas a little bit later. It's not that we have no faith. It's that we're being realistic about this team's chances based off of how they performed in the past, the talent that they have on the roster right now, and the games that they have slated on their schedule. But I mean,
you have two people here that have double-digit victories too. I mean,
exactly.
it's I think that's faith enough in the team for a team that's been decidedly mediocre over the last couple of seasons. So I think they are who we think they are. But I like I said, we're 17-0 until we find out otherwise. But this isn't going to be a team. There we go. See,
Yeah.
there we go. Brush nose. We're 17-0 right now. We're 17-0. But there's a lot of question marks here. Whether or not Wentz can put it together here in Washington, or I think people really hated that shovel pass, and that really is kind of tainted their thoughts on whether or not Carson Wentz can be a good QB, and how he plays down the stretch here. These last 3 games are going to be super important, kind of like how it was in Indianapolis. He failed to do that last year, but whether or not maybe he bounces back, and this year he has a really good season. The schedule's set up for Washington to have a good year. Can they put it together?
Yep. Last week of the schedule, week 18, Dallas Cowboys don't even have the time on here. It could be easily flexed out. Thoughts on that matchup, and it'll be at home for us as well.
I think this has the potential to get flexed to that night game, because I think this could be a deciding game on who wins the NFC East. The Eagles will be in play for it. Dallas should be in play for it. And I do believe Washington will be in play for it. So this is going to be an exciting game. It's going to be at home. It's against a team that we all hate. I hate that it's actually really here, because we'll see probably a lot more blue in those stands than burgundy and gold. But I mean, maybe if we're having the 10 wins that Abdul and I are predicting, maybe we'll actually fill out the stadium with the right set of people, and not people like who was that Cowboys person that we have?
Brandon Williams.
Yeah, Brandon Williams. Not Brandon Williams. We'll have people repping the district.
Sure.
But I think this is I had them losing early in the year, and week 4 against them. They have to split this series. And I think that they will. I think that they win the final game of the season, and the first 11-win season in 3 decades. As surprising as that is. Now, they might be a paper, 11-win season. A lot of those losses, I think, are going to be coming against teams that are above 500, and there's going to be questions going into the playoffs. But I think that they get there. I think that they get 11 wins, and it's going to be here in week 18 that they beat the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay. Dula?
So, as I said not too long ago, I have us going 10-7. But just what Nathan said, I mean, everyone talks about how Carson did not play well in that Jacksonville game last year. Always hold it against him. If this is prime time at home, we're sweeping the Dallas Cowboys and move on to be 11-6. And honestly, I think this is great. After the 2 seasons that Ron Rivera has had here, the 3rd season is the year we finally do it. I'm trying to be not a pessimist and be realistic at the same time. So we beat Dallas, move in. I don't know if we'll win the NFC East just because Philly's still there, but definitely have a good chance at 11-6.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from, Abdullah. Nathan, on your point about this game being flex, I also think this game is going to be flex, but not because these 2 teams will vie for at the week 18 mark, vie for the NFC East crown, but for a playoff spot. I think the Eagles, like I said earlier, will win the NFC East, but I think these 2 teams, the Cowboys and Washington, I could see both being 8-8 going into week 18, and whoever wins that matchup will also secure a wild card spot in the NFC, and we'll have 2 teams from the NFC, in the NFC, and we'll have 2 teams from the NFC East in the playoffs. And I have us winning this matchup. I have us beating the Cowboys at home. I think I had us losing at Dallas, and I think we'll split the series because I think we did make improvements on this team. And I also think Dallas downgraded a bit on their offense. They also lost some players on their defense as well. And they're just not the Dallas Cowboys that we saw when they blew us out last year. So I have us winning that matchup, much to Brandon's demise, and we'll finish off at 9-8. We'll get ourselves into the playoffs for the 2nd time in 3 years. And Kurt Smith is with me, 9-8 on the season, and Nathan has us going 11-6. So for a while, Nathan had us going. His record was in the middle of Abdullah and I's, but no, he has us going 11-6. Abdullah has us going 10-7, and I have us going 9-8. To round things
that's
out.
A real confidence booster there, that stretch of 4 games that are winnable. Exactly. I think that they can get there. I think that they'll get punched in the mouth against San Francisco and then bounce back. And I think that, again, this team's capable of putting together some, Dave's talking about how they, some new talent, they underperformed last year. I think really they only underperformed based off the expectations we all put on them because they went to the playoffs 2 years ago, even though they had a losing record. But like I said, I think this is going to be a paper 11 win team. I think those losses are going to be against teams above 500. But I think that there's enough teams on here that are not going to have great seasons that Washington could potentially feast on that. Now, my question for Nati, you have us going 9-8, and Kurt, you as well. You can answer this: is a 9-8 season successful for Ron Rivera and the Washington Commanders?
If it secures a playoff spot, I think so. Much like the 7-9 season when we secured a playoff spot was as well. I think a 2-win improvement will be good. I do get, the argument that the schedule is super easy. It's the easiest right now on paper in the entire NFL. If we only win 2 more games than we did last year when we had one of the hardest schedules, is it that much of an improvement? But honestly, we're all fans here, right? And I just want to see us in the playoffs and, have a legit shot of maybe winning a game or two. And this might be a shocker, but even at 9-8, I could see us potentially being a threat in the playoffs. I think our record might not really show how good we are, especially towards the tail end of the season, once everything starts to mesh, once Carson Wentz has a full grasp of this playbook, once our defense, as they've had the last 2 seasons where they start off really slow and they end very strong in the case of 2020 and pretty decent in the case of 2021. I think that will be the case in 2022. And I can see us being the threat in the playoffs. And in my opinion, that's all that matters. Even with the 9-8 record, I think that could be a successful season if we do get in the playoffs and we potentially even win a game.
Yeah. I just want to make it clear, if we get blown up by San Francisco and Cleveland, but somehow knock off Dallas, that's a successful season for me. But talking about just a good season in general, I mean, honestly, a playoff win would be great, but 9-8 and a playoff appearance, that's good. And hopefully, fans will ease it up on Ron Rivera.
Yeah, I think that's important here. I think that if going in, especially as easy as people think the schedule is, there's a lot of high expectations. Again, people are coming around on Wentz or like Wentz, even if they don't necessarily like Wentz. They think Heineke could win because there's a lot of talk about how Heineke won 7 games against one of the tougher schedules. Nathan. You're not high on Wentz. You're not high on Heineke.
No.
Are you a howler? Sam Howell, is that your guy? Are you a howler?
I think he has some potential. I was going to ask you about our draft picks. I think he has some potential, but I don't think he's ready right away for sure.
No, I liked the pick in the 5th round. I think that he does have some good talent, and he'll be a quality backup for Washington if we're lucky. If we're if we won the lottery, then he's the next Tom Brady, right? But that's one quarterback, and how many quarterbacks have been in the NFL have been Tom Brady. So yeah, more than likely he's just a quality backup for Washington, which would be great. And Wentz, I'm not huge on Wentz. Okay. I actually advocated on Ref the District to not talk about Carson Wentz before the deal happened, because I didn't want him here. I thought that what Washington was going to have to give up to get him wasn't going to be worth it when you can get a quarterback like Mitch Trubisky. Not to say that they're equal, but like, what are you getting that much more value when you're having to pay, right? They're paying $28 million and they gave up draft picks, or you can pull like the Steelers did and pay $10-15 million to Trubisky and still probably be in that same kind of middle tier QB room. And so I didn't want to talk about it, but they ended up happening, and I've been working myself around to liking Carson. I think that you brought it up. He has the tools, right? He's tall. He's got an arm. He still has some mobility to him. He played at an MVP level, not too many seasons ago. His touchdown to interception ratio is good. So I'm not necessarily a believer in Wentz as much as I do believe that he can put together a quality season for Washington. And Heineke, I get a lot of people upset with this, the part of the Heineke hive, or maybe they feel like I'm just disrespecting him, but he is not the starting quarterback for the Commanders. Okay. And he is at best a low end starting QB in the league, but more likely, and what reality is he's a high-end backup, someone who you have come in to play a couple of games, just try to keep you afloat until your starter comes back. And that you need players like that. And he also won't be on the team after next season. So, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. And before getting to one last question, I will say in the Mitch Trubisky take. So, even with me not being super high on Carson Wentz, I still would rather have Carson Wentz than Mitch Trubisky. There's a reason why I call him Mitch Trubisky on this channel. And, I got to see him up close in Chicago, just wet the bed every single week. And I just think with Carson Wentz, even the draft compensation that we gave up, I think he offers more upside. And I'd rather have, the hope that we could potentially have something at quarterback than someone who I know is not the answer. I don't care how young he is. And have a draft compensation as well. Like I also think we made up for the loss of draft picks as well with trading back and stuff.
Absolutely, they absolutely made back quite a few of those picks, which is great. Now, I'm not trying to say that Trubisky is better than Wentz. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying that. Is he that much better that you gave up a third and then potentially a second, and you're paying $28 million? That's where I was struggling. I don't think that he's, that much better, at least. And Kevin, I see that, he didn't have a bad year last year. I'm not someone who thinks that he had a bad year. I do think the year before it was pretty atrocious. His last year with the Eagles, but when looking at it, it was just like, you want, a lot of fans that we want to develop our own QB, and it felt like we were going to get a retread. So to me, if we're going to get a retread, pay, cheap dollars and kind of, kicking down the can down the road. You're going to have to eventually draft that guy. And, but next year's draft has a whole slew of QBs that are supposed to be really good. So I was just like, if you're going to get a bridge QB, you get the one that you don't have to break the bank for. And that will be a solid backup QB for you, at least for, when you draft your guy. But we're in an interesting position here. We talked about whether or not 9-8 is going to be successful. And I talked about how Wentz, you're paying him $28 million this year, but I don't think they're restructuring. And I think that sets them up perfectly for, if he doesn't have a good season with Washington, you can cut ties with him and move on after next. So I think that, we're in a good position now. So I'm happy with Wentz. I didn't really want Trubisky, but it was just like, if you're looking at who was available free agency wise, I mean, who else are you going to get? I mean, Winston was to me the best of the free agent ones, but he was always going to stay in New Orleans. So. Yep.
And the last question I wanted to ask you guys about, Nathan, this is the first time we're seeing each other since the draft party. Again, shout out to you and everybody at Rep the District for the connection and for, ultimately allowing us to be there and stuff. So very much appreciative of that, and had a good time, got to be on your channel, and, it was just a blast, got to interview a bunch of people. But I haven't really got to ask you this question since then, and that is, what are your thoughts on this draft class overall? I'm not sure if you got a chance to see my video from last week where I said a lot of people were sleeping on this draft class and stuff, but thoughts on that and how good it could be for us come 2022.
It's interesting about people sleeping on it, because I do feel, and maybe this is social media driven, right? Because I feel like people are either really high on this, or they're really, really not happy with the fact that they took a defensive tackle in the second round and a running back in the third round. Going into it, you had to suspect that they were always going to take a defensive tackle because they just lost two, right? And they were going to take a running back. To me, that was a position of need. You have Gibson. They brought back J.D. McKissick. My wife is probably going to kill me for saying this, but Jarrett, frickin' Patterson, as we call him, is he's a great story. But I don't think he's going to be the answer. So you needed somebody who was going to assist there and the running back. I do think third's a little high, but you know what? Ron Rivera showed his hand. He shows what he wants to do. He wants to stop the run and run the ball. And that's why they picked those picks when they did. Dotson as an offensive playmaker, and that's something that I think that people wanted. Might not have been the name some people want, and I think that's another reason why people aren't happy with this draft. You know, my counterparts at Ref the District, for instance, they wanted Olave so bad. And I know that they shared this feeling with a lot of other people when they heard that we're trading back was, okay, they can trade back and still get Olave. And the next thing we know, the Saints picked up Olave. And it was like, okay, who are you going to get? Jameson Williams right off the board, the board. So Dotson, I think a lot of people were sleeping on that one. I think absolutely people were sleeping on him. A lot of lists had him in the top 5 wide receivers. I think the lowest I think I saw him on the pre-draft boards was maybe like the 8th or 9th wide receiver taken, but a lot of them were pretty high on him. And so I'm happy with getting that offensive playmaker. I think that, the defensive tackle Mathis, it's necessary. You're talking this is a player that's going to play 50% or more of the snaps on defense. Like you don't want that to be a 5th round developmental, just a run stopper, doesn't have any other skill set type player. You want that to be a 2nd rounder who is going to impact the field because they're on the field 50% of the time. And so that pick, while not happy with it at the time, because I was, Brisker was right there and he was somebody I was high on as a safety. But I mean, in the 4th round, they got Percy Butler, who, looking at the tape for him, he's an exciting player. And he's somebody who I think could be wearing burgundy and gold for several years and making some great impact plays. And so that part I was happy about. And Robinson's the most disappointing pick to me. I just think that 3rd round running backs are, third.
That's one of my favorite.
I just a running back in the 3rd round. I think that you really want to get somebody kind of like Gibson, right? Somebody who's explosive, going to be a home run hitter. I think that if you're talking about, 1st and 2nd down back, who's not really going to play a part in the passing game, you can get that in the later rounds. And even then you can get pass catching backs in the later rounds as well. So I just feel like 3rd was a little high for Robinson. Now, admittedly, I'm not as familiar with him, but from my brief experience and looking over, I just feel like he's not a running back who is going to perform in a manner that's going to dominate, right? I think that he's going to do well. We'll probably get like 250 yards out of him. He'll vulture some TDs from Gibson, and we'll probably be happy with some of that production. But do you really need to use a 3rd round pick for that when you could have probably gotten somebody, in the 4th, 5th, that would do very similar things?
I think we're sleeping. We talk about sleeping on the draft class. I think we're sleeping on Brian Robinson's potential of being a 3-down back in this offense because he is a very, very good pass blocker, which I think is, an under-discussed thing that he brings to the table as a running back. Also, it's not like he doesn't have capable hands out of the backfield. I just think, Bama doesn't really throw to their running backs much in their offense. They don't really rely on that much in their scheme. But I honestly, man, like Brian Robinson, I agree with you. Like he could vulture touchdowns, but I also think, he brings something to the table that Antonio Gibson does not. Antonio Gibson, for as much, electricity he brings to this offense and stuff when he's healthy, in my opinion, he still is falling short when it comes to the instincts at the position and the vision. And I think Brian Robinson sort of makes up for that as a bruiser type running back, as a guy who, could find the holes and really be a good piece for us. But again, that's one of my favorite picks in the draft. I don't know.
Some randos,
and it was also
coming
pretty much
after
a 4th round pick. It was pretty much a 4th round pick because it was a compensatory 3rd round pick that's picked 34 in the 3rd round. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Still top 100 pick though, and so that's kind of my barrier for like if a person could be a bust in the NFL draft. I feel like if you're a top 100 pick and if he never is solidified as the starting running back, I just don't think that that's worth a top 100 pick. But I mean, a lot of people are pretty happy. You're happy with it. You obviously got some people happy with the pick here in the comment section. It's just, to me, I mean, if you're looking at overall, like I said, you want an offensive playmaker, you got Dotson. You needed a defensive tackle. You got a good one there in the 2nd with Fedarian Mathis. 4th round, you got the safety. I've been saying the 3rd safety is more important than the 3rd linebacker. I know a lot of people wanted linebacker, but it's like you need a productive 3rd safety more than you need a 3rd linebacker. Still surprised they didn't draft one.
Mm.
In the 5th round, you got a quality developmental QB that, despite the fact that he doesn't eat steak, he has some hamburgers, it's crazy, but he can spin it. Like, I mean, if you actually look at the stats from like the Senior Bowl game, they did a lot of, advanced statistics. I'm a nerd like that. I like seeing those kind of things. And I think that he will be a quality backup at minimum. And you're getting that in the 5th. And I think that's excellent value there. The other 5th round pick, tall tight end. A lot of people wanted a tall wide receiver for Carson Wentz. You got a tall tight end, kind of boosting up that tight end room that might be missing Logan Thomas for parts of the season. He's also, north of 30. So whether or not he's not in his prime, and I like him now. I definitely called him decidedly mediocre before. I'm probably not as high on him as some others. I think that tight end is something that it's one of my favorite positions. And I think that he is above average and within the league, but I think that we probably overvalue him more so than where he's, defenses aren't really planning against him, right? He's not a Travis Kelce or Kittle or anything like that. He's quality. And I think Bates is probably underrated, but I think that you're going to see some more pass catching tight ends kind of shore up this offense in the next few years. I love big offensive linemen in the later rounds. Those are great. And then, 7th rounder, cornerback, I think that he's probably going to be practice squad material. And, that might be partially because I don't really care for Oklahoma State, but, no, he's going to be just fine. But I mean, it's a 7th rounder. You don't really bust on a 7th rounder. I mean, if he makes the practice squad or is the, a special teams player, then you're good to go. So I liked this draft for those reasons. Not hitting on one of the linebackers seems a little bit off. You don't really want to go into the season with Mayo being your 3rd linebacker, but here we are, and we'll see how maybe one of these undrafted free agent linebackers, or after they sign Terry, they set aside money and grab a linebacker that gets
Alexander Johnson. Yeah, maybe he's on the market.
Yeah.
Or maybe just bring back Landon Collins.
Potentially.
I think that they probably won't end up bringing Landon Collins back. I would like to see him back. I was actually really high on him coming into his draft. Disappointed he went with the Giants. Happy that he signed here. Didn't quite perform up to expectation. I do think that he was better last year when he kind of really took on that downhill safety role. You can't call him a linebacker. He doesn't want that, which is fair, because if you this is going to be, we talked a little bit about contracts earlier with Kirk Cousins. I think this is where you're seeing a dynamic shift. I think safeties are definitely going to start getting paid more than linebackers get paid, and so
maybe specifically outside linebackers, because Bobby Wagner, I think he got paid a bunch, right, this offseason by the Rams. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's also Bobby Wagner. I mean,
that's true.
It's like saying Luke Kuechly was going to get paid. Yeah, of course. That's a quality linebacker there. But I mean, right now you have Cole Holcomb, who is good, but he's not somebody at Wagner's level, peak Wagner's level, anyways. So, Landon Collins, though, I think that Adams, the kid that they just signed, he can he do safety play. You have Percy, who's their drafted safety. They just signed McCain, right? And they have Cam Curl. So you're probably not bringing in Landon Collins to be your 5th or 6th safety. You'd bring him back in to be kind of that role that he was last year, but you already drafted that one. And I think with some of those pieces that they have, I just don't see them signing Landon Collins again, which a little disappointing, because like I said, he played really well in that downhill safety role, but he's not going to want to be the 3rd rotational linebacker-esque player. He wants to see the field more.
Until your thoughts quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I was upset with, not taking a linebacker early, especially since we have Antonio Gibson, which for some reason Nati just doesn't like, or not high on, because I love AG, but we'll get to that later. I just thought linebacker was a big position because, David Mayo, we just can't have that. But one thing that I did love was the Sam Howell pick. Before, week 1 of last year's college football season, I always say this. I go to Virginia Tech, so they played us in Lane Stadium. I was like, who is UNC's quarterback? And everyone was saying, he's the first overall pick, upcoming draft. Things happened. He lost his weapons. Yami Brown now here. So I love that pick. I feel like he's the steal of the draft, like bias aside. But our overall grade wise, I give it a B minus. Originally, I had a C plus, but when I thought about it more, and especially with Nathan's explanation, it just makes more sense. And hopefully, these guys make impact come week 1.
Yeah. It's not that I'm not high on Gibson. It's just that I'm high on Robinson. I just think I don't know, man. Especially in today's day and age, Nathan talked about linebackers not getting paid a bunch. Running backs. I mean, how often do we see, pretty capable running backs just not get extensions, right? And, teams continue to draft guys and replace guys and at the position. And I think that could be the case here in DC. Maybe Antonio Gibson might not be the long-term answer at running back here. And maybe they might decide to go cheap and, retain a Brian Robinson and see how things work out that way. But no, I just think he gives you everything that you want at the running back position. He might not be the most elusive of backs, but I think at pick 34 in the 3rd round, I think he's a very good pick for us. I will say this, though. Nathan mentioned going with potentially Brisker in the 2nd round over Mathis. The number one guy that I put on my pick 47 video, the number one guy that I wanted for the Commanders at pick 47 was Leo Chenal, linebacker, and he was still there, and we didn't get him, and, that sucked. But at the end of the day, with the running backs that we're facing this year and the fact that, even with our talented defensive line, we oftentimes got gashed in the run game. Even last year, I think we needed that sort of run stopper in the middle of that defensive line, and we got that for Neri Mathis. So I think with each passing day, I get more and more higher on that pick. Jahan Dotson, I think he's going to be a stud for us. I really do. I really, really do. He has all the tools that you want at the receiver position. He has the speed. He has the route running. He had like the best hands in this draft as well. I mean, he's also very smart, very instinctive, very good character. All the things that you want out of a receiver. I think he's going to be a stud for us in DC. He could be that Emmanuel Sanders, Tyler Lockett type player for us, which I think will be very good, especially fingers crossed we keep Terry long term and he'll be, that Robin for Batman that is Terry. Sam Howell, I agree with Abdullah, probably the steal of the draft, especially if he pans out. He's a very good player. He was supposed to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft going into the 2021 season. Things went the way they did. Lost his weapons and all that and ended up here. But I think we should be grateful for it. The not eating beef aside, I think we should be grateful for it. And then
you guys bring up the steal of the draft. I mean, you guys aren't alone in that. I think he was actually rated as one of the higher value picks because he was expected to go in the 2nd. And so to get him in the 5th, I mean, that was a plus, like nearly 100 pick value of being able to get him there. So, I mean, yeah, again, I don't want to put too much expectation on a 5th round rookie QB, especially when you have a QB that you just traded for. But, if he turns out to be like Huntley, just up the street, right? A lot of people were salivating, Commander fans were salivating over getting somebody like Huntley. If Sam Howell just plays to that level where, they can potentially turn him or, use him, as value even later, which I think he can, which I absolutely think he can, then that's super, super good there in the 5th round.
Yep. And, I like the Cole Turner pick, especially with Logan Thomas probably missing a couple games start of the season, although he wants to be there for week 1. Week 7 or round 7 picks, Chris Paul, he has the singing ability. I guess that's a plus, but he's a pretty stout blocker, especially in the pass game. And, happy he's here. Christian Holmes, agree with you, Nathan, practice squad player. But the Percy Butler thing, I said this almost right after the draft. I think Percy Butler could push for starts at free safety almost immediately, especially because I am not, Abdullah said I'm not high on Antonio Gibson. I'm not high on Bobby McCain whatsoever. I don't care that he got 2 picks against Jake Fromm. I feel like that inflated his contract by a couple million just solely off of that game.
Yeah.
I think Percy Butler could be a really good piece for us. And then Ron Rivera sort of doubled down on that thinking by saying at his presser that Percy Butler, he could rotate in at safety. He's more than just a special teams guy that a lot of draft experts thought he was going to be coming out the gate. So I'm very high on him. I'm high on this draft class. I think it's a B class overall. And sure, the Darren Mathis fit was probably the weakest pick, just because less so because of the player and what he brings to the table, but more so because of the position that we drafted and also the needs that we have. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the draft. You guys heard Nathan's thoughts. You heard Abdullah's thoughts. I want to again say thank you, Nathan, for joining us on the live stream, for even staying on for a little longer than was expected. So I appreciate you for joining. Abdullah as well in the late ask. And yeah, Nathan, do you want to plug Ref the District and all your channels?
Well, I just want to again thank you for having me out here, and apologize for being a little late to the show.
No problem.
You guys are doing great stuff out here, and happy to continue kind of coordinating and creating content together. It was great to have you at the draft. For those not familiar with Ref the District, we stream. I'm 1/3 of our show. We stream live every Wednesday at 7:30. So catch us there, where we talk Commanders. And of course, if you check out our channel, we also talk all the DC sports as well. Unfortunately, Stoner is traveling, so you don't get his Stoner recaps after the Capitals just really let these last two games get away from them. But yeah, we do talk all that good stuff for the DC sports, and we love creating content and working with these guys here at the DMV Sports Zone.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that, Nathan, but man, what a downer, the Cavs.
Back-to-back games, losing leads like that, it just hurts. Hurts.
Yeah. It's also it's sad too, because like the losses started racking up like on my birthday. Because I went to the game on Monday, and that was my birthday, and we lost that game. Appreciate that. We lost that game after that fluky goal at the end of the third period, and then in overtime very quickly. We lost that one, and then we lost on Wednesday, we lost on Friday, and we're out of the playoffs, man. It's sad because I don't think you can say any one of our major DC sports teams right now is like better than average, like great. Like I don't think you could use that term to describe
it depends
anyone.
on where you put the women's teams, right? So like the Mystics, they're going to be good this year, especially Deladon is back and playing well. And then of course you have the appreciate you some rando. You have the oh man, I'm spacing on the name of our ladies soccer team.
Spirit, right?
The Spirit,
yeah.
Spirit. So they're national champions, and they're they have, I think, 7 or more of their players are on the women's national teams. That's the level of caliber of play that you're getting when you watch the Washington Spirit play. So shout out to the ladies and what they're bringing to the DMV, because we need some more champions, right? We need to have that level of play here. And of course we had a good run with the Mystics winning, the Nationals winning, and the Caps winning, that stretch of 18 and 19. But we want to bring that back. We want that to be consistent. We can't let these other metro areas take better stance than we do. So hopefully we'll get there. Hopefully Commanders, we talked about that today, the 11 win season. If they get 11 wins, it's the first time in like 3 decades. The last time they had 11 wins or more, they won a Super Bowl. Just
But I'm not getting my hopes up. I can't do that again.
Yeah, do not get Ashburned. Do not get your hopes up. Go into the season thinking it's going to be another 9-8, maybe 8-9, and then that way you'll be pleasantly surprised when they turn things around.
Exactly, especially maybe potential signing of James Bradbury or an Alexander Johnson or someone in free agency. I think we could still add to this team before the start of the season.
And they will. They absolutely will.
For sure. But again, Nathan, thank you so much, man, for joining. Appreciate you. Appreciate your great insight on all the draft picks, on the schedule. It's really fun going week by week. Abdullah, once again, thank you for joining, bro. And yeah, thank you for everyone in the chat. Some rando, David DC, Kurt Smith, Brush the 4, DC Big Oso, Take That, Outlaw King, Ali, everybody joined. Yemi at the beginning, Brandon, Hawk, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining. It's been a fun one. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Rep the District and also to the DMV Sports Zone channel, where we like to post fire content like this as much as possible. Also, go follow our Instagram page, all lowercase DMV Sports Zone, Twitter page at DMV Sports Zone, and our TikTok run by this guy at DMV Sports Zone as well. And yeah, see you guys on the next one. Peace.